Do you ever feel like you hired a team to save you time, but somehow they end up stealing it instead? If you're looking for ways to get your team to respect your time, then this video is for you. You brought people into your firm so that you can get help. You wanted to serve clients better. You wanted to stop doing everything yourself. But now your day is filled with interruptions, quick questions, unnecessary approvals, last minute issues, and problems that somehow always end up back on your desk. If that sounds familiar, the problem may not be your team's work ethic. It may be that your team has never been taught how to respect your time. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 ways to get your team to respect your time, reduce interruptions, protect your focus, and help your team become more independent. Coming up, you're going to learn 3 things every solo and small firm lawyer needs to understand if they want their team to respect their time. First, you'll learn why your team keeps interrupting you or relying on you for everything, and why this may have less to do with them being careless and more to do with unclear expectations, weak systems, or habits you may have created without realizing it. Second, you'll learn how to set boundaries with your team without seeming rude, unavailable, or disconnected. Because the goal is not to shut your team out, it's to make sure that they know when to come to you, how to come to you, and when they should move forward without you. And third, you'll learn specific changes you can make so that your team becomes more independent. That includes better communication rules, clearer decision-making authority, and simple systems that reduce unnecessary interruptions. By the end, your team should still feel supported, but they should no longer treat your time as the firm's default solution to every problem. The first thing you need to understand is this. Your team won't automatically respect your time just because you're busy. They'll respect it when you clearly teach them how your time should be used. Think about the open door policy. Most law firm owners like the idea of having one. You want your team to feel comfortable coming to you. You don't want to seem distant or unapproachable, and you don't want to seem like the kind of boss who's too busy to help. But here's the problem. When you say, my door is always open, what your team hears is, interrupt me whenever you have a question. And over time, that open door policy can quietly turn into an open season policy on your focus. The solution is not to slam the door shut and become unavailable. The solution is to define what that door means. There should be times when the door is open for questions, teamwork, and problem solving. But there should also be times when the door is closed because you're doing work that requires focus. And your team should know the difference between something that deserves an immediate knock and something that can wait for the next check-in. That's the leadership shift this video is about. If you want your team to respect your time, you can't just hope they notice how busy you are. You have to teach them when to come to you, how to come to you, and when they should move forward without you. So let's walk through those 5 ways to start doing that. The first way is to stop rewarding every interruption. You need to understand that your team's behavior is often being reinforced without anyone meaning to do it. If a team member interrupts you with a non-urgent question and you immediately stop what you're doing to answer it, you've taught them that interrupting works. That doesn't mean your team is doing anything wrong. It means they're responding to the system you've allowed. Your team will keep interrupting you as long as doing so is the fastest way to get an answer. Your availability may be creating dependency. Every immediate answer trains the team to come back again. You don't need to punish interruptions, though. That's not the point. But you do need to stop making interruptions the default path to progress. A better response might be, is this urgent, or can we cover it during our check-in? That one question starts to retrain the habit. You're not ignoring them. You're not being rude. You're teaching them that not every question gets immediate access to your attention. But in order for that to work, your team needs to understand what actually deserves your immediate attention. This brings us to the second way. Define what actually counts as urgent. Many lawyers tell their team, only interrupt me if it's urgent. But they never define urgent, and that creates a problem. To the attorney, urgent might mean a court deadline, a client emergency, a major mistake, a trust accounting issue, or an ethical concern. But to the team, urgent might mean a client called twice, or they're not sure how to phrase an email, or they don't want to make the wrong decision. So here's the key idea. If you don't define urgent, your team will define it for you. You need to create categories. Start with the issues that require an immediate interruption. They may include court deadlines, client emergencies, trust account issues, major client dissatisfaction, ethical concerns, or anything that could cause real harm if it's delayed. Then create a second category. These are things that should wait until the next scheduled meeting or check-in. They matter, they need an answer, but they don't need to break your focus right now. Then create a third category. These are things the team should handle using your existing systems, templates, or their own judgment. With these categories, you create a system that your team can use to determine whether you need to be involved. They are interrupt now, bring to check-in meeting, or handle without me. That gives your team a simple triage system. Now, they're not guessing. They have a way to sort issues before they interrupt you. Once your team knows what's urgent and what isn't, the next step is to give them a reliable place to bring the non-urgent issues. This brings us to the third way. Create scheduled access to you. That's the category 2 check-in meeting. If your team doesn't know when they'll get access to you, they'll try to get it whenever they can. That's why scheduled access is so important. Your team interrupts less when they trust that there's a predictable time to get answers. Depending on the size and pace of your firm, this might be a daily or weekly check-in. It could be a short meeting at a set time each day. The point is that your team knows that there's a place to bring non-urgent questions. Use a running agenda. That way, when a team member has a question, they can add it to the list instead of interrupting you in the middle of focused work. Keep the check-in short, focused, and consistent. This allows you to stay approachable without being constantly available. You might say, unless something is truly urgent, add it to our check-in list and we'll cover it at 3 o'clock. That one sentence gives the team direction. It tells them you're available, but it also tells them that availability has structure. But scheduled access alone is not enough. You also have to change the quality of the questions your team brings you. And that brings us to the fourth way. Require better questions, not just fewer questions. The goal is not to make your team afraid to ask questions. That would create a different problem. The goal is to make them ask better questions. Many interruptions happen because the team member brings the attorney an undeveloped problem. They come in and say, "What should I do?" But they haven't thought through the issue. They haven't looked at the options. They haven't made a recommendation. So you become the first person thinking about the problem. That needs to change. Don't let your team bring you a problem with no thinking attached. Teach your team to ask questions in a better format. For example, here's the issue. Here are the options I see. Here's what I recommend. Here's what I need from you. That format changes everything. It encourages independent thinking. It also makes it much easier and faster for you to respond. Instead of solving the whole problem from scratch, you're reviewing their thinking and making the final call where needed. A good phrase to use with your team is, before you bring me a question, I want you to bring me your recommended answer. Again, this isn't about making them feel bad for asking questions. It's about helping them build better judgment. The bad question is, what should I do about this? The better question is, here's the issue, here are 2 options, here's what I recommend, and here's the specific decision I need from you. This is a much better use of your time. And once your team starts thinking through issues more clearly, the next step is giving them authority to act on more of those decisions without coming back to you every time. And that brings us to the fifth way. Give your team decision-making authority. This final point is about empowerment. If your team needs permission for everything, they'll need to interrupt you for everything. To get your time back, you need to decide what your team is allowed to handle without you. A team can't respect your time if they have no authority to act without you. So start by identifying recurring decisions your team should not need to make. Create rules, templates, checklists, scripts, and authority limits. For example, what client questions can they answer? What scheduling issues can they handle? What expenses can they approve? What routine document or workflow steps can they move forward? What client services issues can they resolve without asking first? One of the biggest areas where this matters is unscheduled phone calls. These can destroy an attorney's focus because they feel immediate even when they're not truly urgent. So your team needs clear guidance on how to handle them. Let's start with potential new clients. Don't let every potential client call become an interruption for the attorney. Give your team an intake script. Train them to identify whether the person is a good fit for your firm. Let them gather the right information and screen for basic fit. Then, let them schedule a consultation only when the person meets your criteria. The attorney shouldn't be pulled out of focus work just because someone called and asked to speak to a lawyer. Now let's talk about existing clients. Give your team guidance on what they can handle without you. For example, they may be able to answer questions about case status, upcoming dates, missing documents, scheduling, billing, office procedures, and other non-legal questions. If the client needs legal advice or your specific input, the answer doesn't have to be, "Let me interrupt the attorney right now." The answer should be, "That's something the attorney needs to address with you. Let's get a call scheduled." That protects your time while still serving the client in a professional way. Start small, then expand authority as trust grows. And be clear about this: mistakes may happen, but constant dependency is also costly. Getting your team to respect your time is not about being less helpful. It's about building a firm where everything doesn't have to flow through you. Once you give your team more decision-making authority, the next challenge is making sure they use that authority correctly and consistently. Because your team will not magically become more independent just because you tell them to interrupt you less, you need a system, intake scripts, call handling guidelines, delegation rules, checklists, escalation standards, and communication boundaries, and a clear understanding of what they can handle without you. The 5 strategies we've covered today will help your team interrupt you less and respect your time more. But if you want this to stick, you need more than one conversation with your team. You need a system that tells your team what to do, when to ask for help, when to move forward without you, and how to protect your focus time while still serving clients well. If you want help setting that up in your law firm, click the link below to schedule an initial call with me. We can talk about where your team is getting stuck, where your time is being lost, and what systems would help you get more control over your day. If you're not quite ready for that, download my book on time management. It'll help you start identifying where your time is going, what is stealing your focus, and how to begin taking control of your schedule. And there's a link in the description to get that book. Finally, if you want to keep working on this right now, watch one of these next 2 videos. First, watch what tasks should you delegate to a legal VA if your team keeps depending on you because you haven't clearly decided what should be off your plate in the first place. And second, watch 4 simple boundaries to take control of your schedule if your bigger issue is that your day is constantly being controlled by other people's needs, questions, meetings, and interruptions.